Welcome to the Get Published podcast, sponsored by Brodie Consulting Group. To get more information about our coaching, publishing, executive ghostwriting, and podcast production services, go to getpublishedpodcast.com. Hello, I am Paul Brodie, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Get Published podcast, where we help authors get published with a proven system that works. And today, we're being joined by Joe Dolce, author of Brave New Weed. Joe, welcome to the show.
Hi, Paul.
All right, you ready to get started?
Yeah, my last name is Dolce, though. It's D-O-L-C-E, like Dolce Vita.
All right, question number one. What is the one piece of advice that you would give to a first-time author who is currently writing their book?
There's a lot of advice I'd give, Paul. One thing is get your expectations straight. It's not a quick lift, and expectations on the first book should be fairly low, I would say. It's hard to come out of nowhere and hit it big. So keep your expectations very realistic and restrained, I would say.
And what do you feel is the hardest part about getting published?
The process is long and arduous, and people don't expect that. They sort of think, oh, I'm going to dash off a proposal, send it out, and somebody's going to buy it. And it really doesn't work like that. It's an iterative process. Proposals can take a really long time. I would say spend as much time on that proposal and chapter breakdown as you possibly can.
Well, let's talk about marketing. So please share a marketing strategy that you have used in your book launch that has worked well.
Nothing worked in my book launch. There was no marketing strategy that worked well. What I would suggest doing is figuring out how to build an audience well before your book comes out, whether that's doing a podcast on your topic or blogging or having a column in another publication. Build your audience first. That is the most challenging thing to do. So that way, when the book comes out, there are people who know you, who want to hear what you have to say or read what you've written. I think that's the hardest thing about it, and I think it's the best advice I could give. You're not going to get much support on that from your publisher. So you have to be very independent and very assertive about it.
And do you have any specific strategies you recommend for building the audience?
I think you have to go where it's comfortable. If it's easy for you to blog and you enjoy it, do that, because you have to do it. Whatever it is, you have to do it consistently. I say this because I started a podcast on my topic after my book came out. And if I had known more and known better, I would have started that podcast well before the book came out, because I'm now 82 episodes in, and I've got a dedicated following who like what we do. And it would have been much easier to launch a book and get traction on a book and do upfront sales and offer them promotional codes, et cetera, had they developed earlier.
Well, speaking of books, I'd like to know what is your favorite book and what was the number one thing that you learned from it?
God, never in my life have I had a favorite anything. I don't have a favorite color. I don't have a favorite city. I don't have a favorite anything. I just love reading. So I'm a reader, and I'm currently reading Nickel Boy by the same author who wrote The Underground Railroad, and I think he's terrific. I think he's a great writer. I love the intimacy with which he tells stories. I always learn a lot about a history that I knew very little about. I've never been one to say I have a favorite of anything, and I'm happy about that because I have a wide range of interests and topics that hold my interest.
And for a final question, what is your favorite quote and why?
Well, again, I don't have a favorite quote, but there's a poem I really like, and it's by Mary Oliver, and it's short. I'm going to read it. And it says, if I wanted a boat that bounded hard on the waves, that didn't know starboard from port, and wouldn't learn, that welcomed dolphins and headed straight for the whales, that when the rocks were close would slide in for a touch and go, that wouldn't keep land in sight, that went fast, that leapt into the spray. What kind of a life is it? Always to plan and do, to promise and finish, to wish for the near and the safe. Yes, by the heavens, if I wanted a boat, I would want a boat I couldn't steer. And I offer you that poem and the listeners a poem because writing a book is often like riding a boat that you can't steer. You often have to follow the directions that thoughts and words and ideas and characters take you in, and you have to be very flexible. So if you have this idea, this super fixed idea of what this book is going to be when you start, open it up. Go with the waves. Don't try to avoid every close rock. You have to be able to really ride with it. And I think that's the fun and the beauty and the adventure, really, of writing.
Well, Joe, I want to thank you for being a guest on the show. What is the best way for people to find you online?
Hi, Paul. The best way is you can find the podcast at www.bravenewweed.com. That's really the best way to contact me. There's a contact form in there. You can subscribe to the podcast for free. You can be on our mailing list. And you can also order a copy of the book online, or even better, go to your independent bookseller and ask them to get you a copy if you're interested in reading about my adventures into the new world of cannabis.
Joe, thank you once again for being on the show, and I wish you all the best in your author journey ahead.
Same for you, Paul. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks again for joining us today. To learn more about how to get your book published with a proven system that works, grab a free copy of my book at getpublishedpodcast.com.